Devil Dog 22 on Discord wants to know, what was the craziest crowd that you saw at a movie?
The craziest crowd would probably see they're really movies that I would go see. There wasn't like a crowd unless it was like, maybe a drive-in per se. Mm-hmm. But I would have to say probably the craziest crowd large would be the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
And that's when I stood up and freaked out too. Yeah. So that was fun. I got like kind of, I don't want to even say embarrassed, but like flipped out in front of like 88 people. Hard.
That's to give some context of what was going on.
So the girl I was dating at the time, we actually I lived with them and their family. They were gracious enough to let me stay there because I was going to school like nearby and then working at Burger King where he was the general manager and blah, blah, blah. So that being said, my girlfriend's parents, we were all just like family night. He was like, let's go see a movie. And he was like, Lord of the Rings. And we're like, okay. And I was like, Lord of the Rings. I'm like, oh, like I kind of knew what this was and it looked kind of decent. So we're at the theater and it's this long ass movie and it was great. Like it was good. And at the end, they're like, there. And then the credits roll. Wasn't having it. I stood up and I was like, I want my fucking money back. This is bullshit. 2.5 hours. They did. That's a fucking not even. What the fuck? Where's the ring going? Like, and I am irate. And Joe, the father, is sounding just like you right now. He was cackling. His wife was losing her shit. And he's like, hey, it's a trilogy. And I was like, oh, had no fucking clue. Had no idea that it was a 3-parter. I was livid. I was like, they can't do that. They can't fucking do that. There was no to be continued or anything at the end.
Just directed by Peter Jackson.
Yeah, fucking credits. I was mad. And Joe was fucking losing his mind. And he's just like, hey, bud. It's a trilogy. And I was like, oh, I'll be back in 2 years.
Sorry.
Never went back, never seen them all, but yeah.
Oh, are you shitting me?
I've seen the first and third.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. You're telling me you've never seen The Two Towers?
Not really. I've seen some of it.
Oh my God.
I've never sat down and like watched Lord of the Rings.
No shit. Okay.
I mean, I've done it with Harry Potter a few times. I have a tattoo with of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Not of Harry Potter, but the Deathly Hallows. But like I've sat down and watched at least all of Harry Potter at least twice, fully through and paid attention. That's one of those movies that I just always have on. But Lord of the Rings, no, I've never done that.
Man.
And I get a lot of shit for it. I've seen like the Hobbit movie once.
See, I've never watched the Hobbit movies.
So, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's plural?
Well, there's the original Hobbit movie that they made that's kind of like animated, but it's not. But then the newest one that they did was a trilogy where they made the whole Hobbit book into 3 movies because there was like so much stuff that.
Oh yeah, see, I only saw one.
Yeah, so yeah, which I mainly I think I kind of rode the excitement of that movie because I mean that was just like Harry Potter. It was just like other big a pop culture phenomenons that happened.
Was that the biggest crowds for you? Was Harry Potter's?
No, mine actually was.
That's what I was actually banking on.
See, well, mine was as far as like crazy or like insane or like big crowds. It would probably have to be either. It's a toss up. It's a toss up between the first Avengers and Avengers Endgame. Because which I would probably have to say that Endgame was the one that was the craziest. I know that from my perspective, from where I was at and what I was doing, it was intense. It was one of the greatest experiences I think I've had as a human being. And I know that's really like may sound shallow to people, but it's like, nah, dude, I love Marvel movies. I love those characters. I love everything. I love this. long story that they told, and it was finally all coming together. And what actually ended up happening was that in the theater that we went and saw Endgame, in the movie, if anybody doesn't want to know anything about Endgame, if you haven't seen it yet, get out of here. So, but just in case of that one person that's waiting, watch it with his girlfriend or something, you know. So,
right.
No, it was when Stark goes back in time with the team, and he's with his dad in the elevator. And he's like, you know, so what's the occasion? And his dad says, oh, my wife's expecting. And what ended up happening was that the movie glitched.
Oh, yeah.
And it was for a good like 30 to maybe 45 minutes. Like, oh, my wife's expecting. Oh, my wife's expecting. Oh, my wife's expecting. Like, it just kept going and going and going. And the people at the theater knew that they were in deep shit because it's like, this is Endgame. Like, this is the finale. And they... Yeah, this is a good experience. So, because we got an applause where there was not supposed to be one, because what it was that the manager came out and he said, all right, everybody, we apologize for the inconvenience. We are fixing it. We found a version that was not corrupt. And I went, I'm sorry? I'm like, you had a corrupt version of a brand new movie that is a pop culture phenomenon. But I was like, I'll let that go because they've figured out a solution. And he basically said, he's like, okay. He's like, what we can do is that we have the ability to skip to chapters. And he said, we're going to skip to the chapter right before this happens. So he's like, it's probably going to be about 20 minutes before it actually shut down, but we're very positive that it will play and we'll be fine. So the theater goes dark again after everybody like sits down and stops. Luke and I actually didn't sit back down.
Bro, it was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You got to rewatch?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Luke and I were tired of sitting down. We were like, it was like everybody was just packed in, like sardines. So like we finally just stood up on the barrier behind the, the theater that we were at. And dude, you could feel the tension. Like it was the fact that Stark sees his dad. They get into the elevator and he asks the question and it's, I was expecting. And he pulls up the flowers and the entire theater went fucking nuts. Yeah. They were like, yes, we can watch it now. Like, it's, oh my God. Like, it was the most unique experience I've ever had.
Oh yeah.
Because the first Avengers was wild because, like Hulk owns Loki. We had never seen anything like that before. It was fucking hysterical. It was so good. But just from that to the main battle of Endgame, and then just the fact that like people in the theater were shouting Wakanda forever and like Ibambe and like chanting with like the the armies and everything. Like it was such an incredible experience. And like I know that there's certain people that I've heard talk about like like when episode 1 from Star Wars, when that came out, like people were giving a standing ovation when the LucasArts logo showed up. Like, I mean, there's tons of different like theater experiences I know people have had, but Endgame is just very special. Like that was just such a wild thing. And like, I mean, the fact that it's like, like we see, Robert Downey Jr., end his, his track record on this and like, all right, cool. Like this has an end now. It's like, this is, my character's done. Like, that's so huge. And that was a very special night. Like, that was not exactly the best part of my life, but I will say that was one of the things that like I held on to that I was like, nah, dude, that was amazing.
Well, sure. Right. No, I get you, man.
Yeah. It's insane to me.